Praise be to Mikko Koskinen for sticking in yesterday and actually coming away with the win. The Oilers defeated the Washington Capitals in overtime after a game that was pretty strange. Like, the refereeing was all over the place there. The Oilers ended up conceding a lead with point-something seconds left, something like that. But ultimately, Mikko Koskinen gets a much-needed 2 points for the team. And I wanted to use this video as an opportunity, or not this video entirely, but just maybe the opening of this video, to ask a little bit around about Koskinen and where the Oilers lie with their goaltending. With Mike Smith also being out again, because, yeah, that guy can't seem to catch a break now, can't he? Mikko Koskinen had to be the guy yesterday, and admittedly, some of the goals that he conceded, especially the TJ Oshie goal in the third period, not the one that tied the game, but the one before that, I wasn't really a fan. Like, he comes down the right wing, he just has a lane, he shoots it, and he scores it. It goes through Koskinen's armpit and his elbow. Does not look like a good goal, in my opinion, for a goalie to give up at that stage of the game, but he comes away with the win, so I can't be too picky now, can't I? So I just wanted to open up this video with a conversation about that, first and foremost, because when it comes to the Oilers and their goaltending problems, there has indeed been some very documented reports out of the media saying they want to improve their crease. It's Fleury, it's Jake Allen, it's Jonas Korpisalo, it's any of the names that have been on the trade market the past few days. Not even days, but like weeks or months. So if you're an Oilers fan, let me know in the comments your thoughts about your goaltending search. Should you even go after a goalie right here? Do you really just believe in Mikko Koskinen? Or if the case is not, which names out of the ones available would you want to go after the most? One of the names that has circled around the trade rumor mill has indeed been Semyon Varlamov of the New York Islanders. 33 years old, 6'2", 214. He's making $5 million a season till the end of the 2023 year. He's got a modified no-trade clause that kicked off this year, and he's been pretty good the past few years. He's got a .911 save percentage and a .290 goals against in 17 games this year, even though his record on the season is 3-12-1. The Islanders have not really been all too great this season, and so the goaltending records are not going to look fantastic, but still, the individual save percentage numbers are pretty good. Last year, he had a .922 in the playoffs in 14 games and a .929 in the regular season in 36 games, so a lot better in the regular season for sure, but still pretty solid in the playoffs nonetheless. Varlamov has been bouncing around from Washington to Colorado to New York, and he's always been a pretty stable, pretty consistent goaltender this entire time, so there's a good enough body of work out here that makes Varlamov an intriguing option for any of these teams that do need goaltenders. We have seen rumors popping around based off of the Colorado Avalanche as to whether or not they would want to acquire Varlamov again. There are other teams in the mix that people are saying could inquire the Islanders about his services, but there is indeed a team in Edmonton that we have already talked about that apparently got rejected in these entire conversations. So, the first source I wanted to talk about was indeed the same 32 Thoughts article that we highlighted in the previous video, the Joseph Duszak video. 32 Thoughts taking a look around the NHL trade market, published by Elliot Friedman on March 9th, so you can go ahead and check out the link in the description if you want to read this piece. Now, if we go over to the fourth thought on the piece, Elliot Friedman writes that it's foolish to guess what Lou Lamoriello is up to, but there is increased chatter around Semyon Varlamov. 1 more year, $5 million cap hit, $4 million cash. His no trade covers half the NHL. Teams are petrified of admitting they're talking to the Islanders because, yeah, Lou Lamoriello. If it does happen, though, I am not convinced it will be Edmonton. Now, that's one small little comment that he made about the Oilers not being a team that he sees will actually acquire his services. Let's go over onto another post. This is by James Nickel. He does stuff on the fourth period. He covers the Islanders. He also streams on Twitch. It's pretty great. He wrote a tweet earlier in the week saying that Semyon Varlamov sure did prove tonight that he could be a starting goaltender for a playoff team. The question is, will it happen? We had Tim English who responded, and he said, I think he'd actually be a good fit for the Oilers. Not entirely sure what Lou could get back for him, but he would be an upgrade over what they have over there currently. You then had yourselves Nichols who responded to this, and he said, I'm told that Varlamov will not waive his no-trade clause for Edmonton. We then had ourselves even more rumors popping up. Apparently there was a reputable source that went out there. I'm not too sure if this was from Nichols himself, but it appears so, that apparently the Oilers did ask about Varlamov, but those conversations did not go too far. Varlamov is not going to waive his no trade for Edmonton, and with that in mind, I kind of wanted to go out there and bring up the question to Oilers fans, does that concern you? Like, I get it, first and foremost, there's an entire stigma that goes around when it comes to no-trade clauses that says that most NHL players have just the Canadian teams, all of them, on their no-trades because they don't want to go over the border, they don't want to do the entire thing with the taxes and whatnot. It's a pretty complicated process going from an American NHL team to a Canadian NHL team. So the idea that Semyon Varlamov just straight up doesn't want to go to any team in Canada, it does exist. But in isolation, taking a look at just the Oilers themselves, is this somewhat of a worrying sign that Varlamov, who is a good goaltender on a bad team, does not want to go to an Oilers squad in any potential trade? I personally don't see it as the entire world collapsing in on itself if you're an Oilers fan, but I have seen some people freaking out a little bit. Okay, if Varlamov is not willing to waive his no trade, then what about Fleury? What about all the other guys? What about any other player that would be involved in these conversations too? Do other goalies even want to come to Edmonton? How eager does this make the Oilers in the rest of their conversations for other guys? Because if one of their main options that they did talk about is shooting them down, what does that say about Fleury? What does that say about Korpisalo? What does that say about Jake Allen? There should be a little bit of a conversation popping up around here, because if the Islanders are going to go out and try to get the best package they can for Varlamov, you have to start to think, okay, let's say Varlamov does get traded. He goes to Colorado or something, just hypothetical, pulling it out of thin air. The Oilers would have the right to look at the trade package in return and say, okay, could we have matched that? Could we have gone out there and actually done a trade that looks like this? This is sort of reminding me of the Corey Schneider stuff back from 2013, where the Canucks traded Corey Schneider to the New Jersey Devils for only the 9th overall pick, which became Bo Horvat, and the Oilers at the time were kind of pissed off because they were also in the mix for Corey Schneider, and they offered a lot more. They offered, I believe it was like the 7th overall pick, plus another prospect, plus another thing, and so it was a lot more than what New Jersey gave up for Schneider, and as a result, the Oilers were kind of pissy about it, and rightfully so. Okay, you didn't want to trade him to us, even though we were going to give you more stuff. Like, I get it here with Varlamov, it's different because Varlamov himself does not want to go to Edmonton, so there isn't really anything the Oilers can do about it. But who knows if this is a bigger indicator as to whether or not the team should be worried or whatever about other goaltenders maybe not wanting to come to Oiltown in the midst of this big trade market that's going on. So let me know in the comments your thoughts about Varlamov apparently rejecting the Oilers and not wanting to head over to this team. I personally don't envy any GM that has to go out there, whether your name is Ken Holland or not, who has to negotiate or try to negotiate with Lou Lamoriello, because that's a pretty difficult nut to crack, and as history has told us, it's probably not the best to go into a bidding war with this kind of guy. So Oilers fans, talk to me in the comments, what do you think about Koskinen, his performance yesterday against the Washington Capitals, as well as the remaining goaltenders on the market, and whether or not you have other players on your radar. Is it Korpisalo? Is it, I don't know, Braden Holtby? Is it Hudobin? Is it Yaroslav Halak? Hey, if you want to go out there and get Halak, be my freaking guest, man. Also, if you're an Islanders fan, talk to me in the comments what do you think about Varlamov and the other teams that have been rumored to have wanting his services again. I believe Nichols on Twitter was talking about Vegas because Robin Lehner is now out. You also have Colorado, who might want him back because of course they would be. It would be a nice reunion over there. Let me know in the comments all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.